This week in the shop we have a Vanity that Ian was cranking away, getting wrapped up for us. So I'll show you that. We'll walk through some of the features of the Vanity, as well as the finish that's going into this Vanity and how we arrived at that particular finish and the process going from the idea through samples and then into homeowner approval and final product. So for all of the projects that we're doing, we try to make a full-sized sample of the door and the face frame profiles. That way the homeowner, the client, the designer, everybody, even us, we can see what the end goal is going to be. And if there are any modifications, now would be the time to address those. Oh, maybe they don't like this profile, they want to change to something different. Great, we can do that. We can certainly provide additional samples. And we do keep the samples that we make so that we can build our sample library, if you will, so that we're not having to make a new sample for every profile every time. We can offer up a few different profile options in various colors just so they can get an understanding of what the profile is going to be before selecting one if they're kind of on the fence. And then from there, we can go ahead and make them a full-size sample in the color that they're looking for. Not only are we making the full-size doors and frame, but we're also making them a working sample so that they can get an idea of the inside of the cabinet as well and the hardware that's going on them. Typically, we do have the entire door finished, but in this case, we opted not. We had some time constraints, and it was a multi-step processed finish that was going to take a little bit longer than we would have liked. So we arrived at the idea for this sample through the designer's drawings and inspiration photos from the homeowner, as well as a few that we threw out there as well. Now this door is just a standard shaker 5-piece door. It's made from white oak and it's finished with a stain and then has an overglaze on top. The profile here is just a standard square shaker. But then on the frame, we added this little bevel so that the door, the face of the door, is actually flush with the inside of that beveled edge. So the door frame itself, so the frame itself is actually proud of the door. Gives us a nice, sharp, unique look, and the homeowner was going for something a little bit different, not so plain and flat. But they actually rejected this sample. So it was a little bit too dark for them. And as much as everybody did like the mitered edge, it just wasn't the right fit. So instead we gave them a few other options. Now we call this door a micro shaker, where it still has a similar style as the shaker door, where it has these protruding rails and stiles, if you would, but they're much narrower. In this case, only 3/4 inch, and typically we're going with a 2.5. Also on this sample, we gave them two different color options. One was just the stain and one had the overglazing on there. And it's a little bit lighter in color than the original sample. Again, the homeowner rejected this as well. The style just wasn't what we were looking for, didn't exactly fit the space, but they approved the color. So we went with the lighter color with the overglazing. And I'll spin you around here and show you the actual final product on what we decided to go with. Now this here is the actual completed Vanity. A little bit different than what we had originally thought we were going to be fabricating, but this checks off all the boxes, and we arrived at this design through more inspiration photos, more conversations with the client, and just kind of going back and forth until we arrived at this. So a couple of the features here: the face frame will be sticking proud of the actual doors, only by about 1/4 inch, and that carries through down onto our end panels and across our drawer fronts. These drawer fronts are actually integrated pulls. This gap here is so that you can get your hand in here and lift up on that pole. We just do a simple miter here in this case, and we leave about a 1/4 inch or so on the top flat portion so that it's not too sharp and you're cutting your finger or breaking off that edge. So there won't be any hardware on this particular vanity because we do have the integrated poles. So we're keeping that nice streamlined look across there the whole time. And of course, the grain flows all the way across the drawer fronts of the entire piece and down onto the end panels. This is a bit more traditional style piece where we have an actual leg on all the corners as well as in the middle for support. So when we are setting these reveals here in our shop, whether it's on a vanity like this or something a little bit larger like a kitchen, we like to keep these reveals consistent. In our case, we shoot for 3/32 of an inch on this reveal. Now obviously this gap's much larger here and here so that you can get your hand in there and grab that integrated pole. But in keeping all of these gaps consistent going around, we use a series of these spacers here to help keep all of our parts equally spaced. All these are just a few thin rips of wood that we planed down to that 3/32, which was our target reveal. And we can use them to shim in here as we are fabricating to see if our reveals are too tight or too loose and adjusting accordingly. Now all 8 of these pieces are drawer fronts. So behind each there will be a drawer. The drawer will match the inside, which is walnut, so we'll have walnut drawer boxes. And we're actually going to hold off on ordering or making the drawers until we have the locations of our plumbing laid out, so that way we can account for them and work around them, and that we're not having to remake drawers. We have made that mistake many times in the past and do not wish to make it in the future. Another thing you'll notice is that this piece here in the center is quite wider than the gaps in between the drawers. Now, what this acts as is just a piece so that when you're looking straight on from this vanity, you don't see into a dark space like this. You actually see the same finish that is going to be on the drawer fronts and the frame of the cabinet. And it also extends down a little ways so that when you are looking down on this once it's installed, you're not looking into, again, that same kind of black space. So this vanity is now complete. It is ready to go out to the finisher and receive this finish here. Again, it's the stain with a glaze to achieve the desired kind of antique-y look. So the next time that you see this vanity, we will be installing it. So that about does it for this week's episode. If you guys have any questions on how we fabricated that vanity or any more questions on the process of getting the finishes selected and how or why we're doing that, just drop them in the comments below. We will be sure to answer them. And next week, we should have that entryway wrapped up. We can show you the final reveal on that. So stay tuned. Thanks, guys.